Hi, welcome to my latest video. Today I'm going to do a quick vlog to give you an update on projects that I've been doing recently and look at some of the parts that I'm going to be fitting to my car soon. This is the first vlog since November. It is now the beginning of May and the last vlog was vlog number 5, which was the 1st of November. I don't know why I haven't done one since then. I've just been really busy really. I have been doing things on my car. I've just been busy with a lot of other things. I can't really blame the weather, although it was raining heavily on New Year, so I didn't do my usual sort of New Year kind of midnight message that I like to do on previous years. Couldn't do that this year, it was absolutely pouring down. But since then, it's been incredibly dry. Okay, so it's a nice sunny dry day today. And we've had the sunniest February and the driest March on record, I think, so hardly any rain, so I've got no excuse for not getting out here and getting on. I'm sure last autumn I was doing a video and it was raining and I said something along the lines of, oh, it'll probably be the driest spring on record, and it pretty much was actually. So I have been doing things lately. I've been focusing on YouTube. I've been doing some videos recently on my Haldex. I've started my Haldex project. So the rear diff and the Haldex up the back under there are getting quite whiny. So I've been building up a new Haldex, and that video series is in progress at the moment. I've done 2 videos and I'm going to be filming another one this weekend. I've made the decision recently to close my parts division. Okay, so as well as sort of YouTube, I make parts, so things like these sort of headlight rods. Okay, so these are uprated headlight release rods. We've got an orange one there, a yellow one here, and I also made strobes and spotlight brackets. I've decided to stop doing that. Okay, it was just taking up too much time. It was fun to do. I was 3D printing the parts and doing the sort of polyurethane casting and things like that, but it was a lot of mess and a lot of disruption, and Mrs. Pitts was starting to get a bit annoyed with all of the paraphernalia around the house. Okay, so not just the parts and the printers and that, but the bubble wrap and the jiffy bags and label printers and all of the kind of stuff that goes with shipping parts out. I was taking quite a few orders a day, quite a few orders a week. I was probably spending about an hour a day packaging up and doing the labels and going to the post office or booking the postage for collection. It took a lot of time. Okay, it did make a bit of money, which was nice. It helped supplement the channel and just sort of brought in a bit of extra revenue to pay for all of these expensive shiny parts that I keep buying. I've decided enough's enough with that. Well, Mrs. Pitts has actually decided enough's enough. The final straw was when she opened the airing cupboard and it was full of power tools and car parts. So that was it. No more. It's got to go. So parts came to an end. I've still got a few parts left, not many. I've got a lot of headlight release rods, various colours. I'm still sort of using up old reels of filament and a couple of strobes. Discovery strobes as well as Freeland 2 strobes. Not that much left. Okay, so if you want any parts, don't delay. The stock is running down on my website, and when it's gone, it's gone. Okay, so that's parts coming to an end. I did sort of have to have a bit of a think about whether or not to do that, but the feedback that I got from you all on YouTube was very positive. Okay, a lot of you said I'm doing the right thing. It's a shame, but I'm doing the right thing. Okay, focus on YouTube. YouTube is what I'm meant to be doing. So all of those hours that I spent packaging up parts, I can try to put into making videos, okay, which is what I really started off doing, really. I started off the YouTube channel, and then I made parts, and people were asking, oh, can you make some for me? And I ended up sort of having a proper shop on the website, selling all the bits, and it really got going. It was bringing in quite a lot of money, but it's the time. It is the time. There's no time for it at all. So I've decided to wind that down, and that's going to come to an end. Meanwhile, YouTube is looking good. Okay, so I'm nearly at 8,000 subscribers, and I've just reached about 2.2 million views since it all started back in 2013. So 12 years, and it's growing every day. I get a lot of views and more subscribers, and things are going in the right direction. So what have I been doing? What did I do in 2024? Well, 2024 I did lots of projects, but just to name a couple of them, headlight upgrade. Okay, so I went to the projector type headlights, which allowed me to fit LED bulbs. Okay, so normally LED bulbs are illegal and would fail the MOT. I mean, they're still illegal and they still would fail the MOT, but if the tester can't see the bulb and the beam pattern's right, then technically they can't fail it. Okay, so that's exactly what I did. I've put the Philips Altonan bulbs in with projector in dip and main, and I designed some better bulb clips. I've still got a few of those in stock. Okay, so if you want to also fit LED bulbs to the H7 type bulb holders, so the Freelander 2 used H7 for main beam, I think, on all models, but the dip was a variety. It was H7, H11 or xenon, projector type, lots of different types of bulb for the dip. Okay, so what I've done here is I've fitted the H11 Altonans in the dip, and then the H7s with some special brackets that I designed, little not brackets but more clips, little clips, which are better than the ones that you can get on Amazon and eBay and that. They just seem to work better at sort of holding the bulb into the Freelander 2 headlights. Okay, so I did all that. If you want to know all about that, go back and watch those videos. I also did a series on LED bulbs, just looking at LED bulbs in general. Okay, so I bought loads of different headlight bulbs and I kind of compared the brightness, actually measured the brightness using a light meter. So I actually rigged that up so that it was kind of effectively calibrated to get the lumens of the bulb, and I did some maths to work out how far away from the headlight the light meter had to be, and that all worked very well. And as well as the brightness of the bulbs, I was sort of looking at the beam pattern, so I was actually kind of like projecting it onto this hedge really, and just kind of seeing what sort of beam pattern we got from the different bulbs. Very, very interesting exercise that, and I concluded that the Philips bulbs were the best ones in the end. So as well as headlight bulbs, I still need to do indicators, brake lights, side lights, and all the other bulbs on the car that you can change for LED. Okay, so I've done 2 videos on the LEDs, but now it's just too light. Okay, it's too light, so I need to wait for the autumn when it starts to get dark again, and then I will finish off those LED bulb videos. Okay, I also did sill covers, so that was a very, very popular video. Okay, so what I did was removed these strips here and lano guarded behind them. And that is something that all Freelander 2 owners need to do, okay, because if you don't do it, it's going to rust behind there, and then you'll end up rotting out the sills, and, well, yeah, then it's kind of going to fail the MOT, you're going to need welding and all that kind of thing. So well worth removing your sill covers. If you've never removed them, remove them soon. Okay, do it whilst it's dry and sunny, remove those, and then any mud that's caught behind will just sort of disintegrate and fall out. Much better to do it in dry conditions, and then you can kind of clean it all and then apply Lano Guard or wax oil or sort of your chosen anti-corrosion protection substance. Okay, as well as doing the sill covers, I did engine mounts. Okay, so this is it's not really an engine mount, it's an engine stabilizer bar, but there is another one down below at the bottom of the engine, and I fitted these inserts, these sort of stiffening inserts from Powerflex, and I put the race grade ones at the top and the road grade at the bottom, the yellow ones at the bottom, black at the top. But I played around with the different combinations there. I found that black in the bottom was just too firm. Okay, so the vibrations just coming through the bulkhead and through the floor, and it was uncomfortable. Okay, so I put yellow in the bottom, but I got away with black at the top. I found that was okay. It's firm, but the steering wheel doesn't shake. Okay, so it's drivable. Empire Tuning actually did a video fitting exactly the same combination, and Gareth sort of confirmed that it was well worth doing. Okay, he saw a good improvement in just the feel of the car. Really, it was just sort of felt more solid and responsive. Okay, and I think really, yeah, there is a bit of truth in that, because when you accelerate, if your engine has sort of got to kind of move before the power goes to the wheels, then it's just going to kind of feel hesitant, really. So by kind of making everything a bit firmer and more solid, you just get that immediate response on the throttle, which is nice to have. Also did track rod ends. Okay, so at the ends of the steering arm, I call them track rods. Some people call them tie bars. It's kind of the same thing-ish. I don't know. I've called other parts tie bars before, but some people call them tie bar ends. I call them track rod ends. It's the ball joints on the steering, on the knuckle. Okay, so I did mine using a ball joint splitter. It's a laser one, and I think it was like a 3525 or something like that. I can't remember the name of it. I'll put it at the bottom of the screen now. When Frenchie's Road Trip came to do theirs, they found their ball joint splitter didn't fit. It wasn't big enough, so they had to resort to sort of hammering it with a very large club hammer, which made me wince slightly, although I have been reliably assured that that is a valid way of separating ball joints. It's not for me, okay, but a lot of you do that and you get away with it, okay, but I'm just terrified of cracking anything, it just doesn't feel right to me. Okay, so when I did mine, I said don't use a hammer. Quite a few people commented saying it's absolutely perfectly fine to use a hammer. Okay, Pit Lane Kitty's out here. She's hunting for mice, so she's not going to be helping me do this video. Okay, Pit Lane Peanut is around. He's somewhere in the Beavis Pitts Botanical Gardens here, hiding in the undergrowth. Okay, so yeah, so what else? Events. Okay, so I did a few events last year. Gaydon is actually on tomorrow, and I don't know if I'm going to go. It was a bit quiet last year. I have bought tickets, and I don't know. We'll see how I get on today, really. I've got to do my brakes as well today. There's a lot to do, and then it's quite a long drive. I was up that way with business on Thursday. Do I really want to drive all the way back up there again 2 days later? I'm not sure. I'll see how I feel sort of first thing tomorrow, really. But it's a nice show. It's a nice sort of friendly kind of sociable show, but there's no parts really there. There's one guy selling tools, and there's the museum, and that's it really. And I've seen the museum about 5 times now. It doesn't change. So a few of my subscribers are going, and I feel like I ought to put in an appearance just to sort of say hello to people, really. But I don't know. I might give that one a miss this year. Bewley I'll probably be at. Bewley's in July, I think, but I don't think I will be on the 4x4 response stand this year. I did a lot of 4x4 responding last year, and it was a lot of work, a lot of effort, and I just felt that I wasn't getting out of it what I was putting in, really. I mean, it is voluntary work at the end of the day, you don't get paid. So, projects, okay, current projects, the rear diff, okay, so the rear diff is underneath this cover, and there's a reason why it's underneath that cover. Okay, I decided to paint the rear diff, and I wanted to paint it orange. I know it sounds a bit pointless, really. The only person that's going to see it is the MOT tester. So I mixed up some paint, okay. Mixed some red and yellow hammerite to try and make orange, and it just didn't work. It just made a kind of sludgy brown colour, which was really horrible. So I thought, that's no good. So I painted it with that and didn't like it. So I painted it with red hammerite. It looked good in red, but I wanted orange. I really did want orange. Now I thought about using some of this stuff. Now this is actually orange brake caliper paint. It's approaching the colour that I want. I still wanted it brighter than that. Okay, so I will use that. This is E-Tech orange enamel. There's not enough there really to do the calipers and the Haldex and the diff as well. I'll talk more about the calipers in a moment, okay? But I am going to be using that to paint my brake calipers. And I got hold of some of this stuff. Now, I got this from a friend. He works on the railways, and he they use it on HS2 to paint the signs in the tunnels. It is luminous paint, okay, but it's not actually glow in the dark. It's kind of neon orange paint. And I decided to paint my Haldex, my rear diff with that paint. Okay, so if you've got sunglasses, now's the time to put them on. Ta-da! What have you done to my wall? It's a bit bright. Okay, it is a bit bright, and it's so bright my camera's actually underexposing, but I think it looks fantastic. Okay, so I've painted it with that. The paint was a bit thin and a bit sort of matte, but I gave it about 4 coats, and yeah, it's looking pretty good. This is the new rear diff from Bell Engineering, and it's got uprated bearings. So the bearing, in particular the nose bearing where the sort of drive goes in to the diff, has been uprated to a bigger, stronger bearing. That can wear on the Freelander 2. It's a common sort of issue. My one's getting really whiny. So I bought this from Bell Engineering, and I decided to change that these are not drain plugs, these are the fill plugs. Okay, so you've got the diff oil and the Haldex oil, and I've changed those for magnetic ones. So these are M18 by, I think it's 1.5, I think it is. I'll put it at the bottom of the screen. It's definitely an M18. Can't remember the pitch. Okay, so I'll put it at the bottom of the screen. So both of those are the same thread. Okay, now those are not drain plugs, okay, but it's just nice to have the magnetic. It's got like a little magnet in the end of it. So okay, so I've done those. I've also drilled and tapped a proper drain plug, okay, for the diff. Okay, now this was a bit of a story. Austin at Bell Engineering said don't go any bigger than M10, so I ignored him and I went for M12, and I wasn't happy with the thread. The drill had jammed a couple of times as I was drilling out the 11mm hole for the M12. So I thought, I know, I'll just tap it out to M14. That didn't work. The thread got destroyed. I ended up with then a 14mm hole with no thread in it. So I then had to tap it very carefully to M16, okay, which is about the limit you can go. Okay, so I've done M16 by 1.5 thread on there, and that fits there. I had to file this surface to get it nice and flat, to get it to seal. I had to sort of angle grind it a bit and then file it by hand. But that is there. That is looking good. Okay, now I know some of you are probably thinking, why go for all that bling when it's going to be hidden under the car? Well, why not, really? I just think it's nice to do, really. It's a job well done. No one's going to see it apart from the MOT tester, but at least they'll get a bit of a shock when they go under the car and see that glowing in the darkness. So that is that. Okay, illuminous rear diff. As well as doing the sump plugs and that, I've replaced the bolts. Okay, so the standard bolts are here. Okay, so those are the standard rear diff housing bolts, and then we've got some Haldex bolts. I'm replacing them with nice high tensile Allen head bolts there. I've got loads of these drain plugs. I went through various different sizes. Before I fit that to the car, I'm going to build up a new Haldex. So I've got 2 Gen 4s. This is a Gen 3. That's no use to me because my car uses Gen 4 and they're not interchangeable. Okay, so it's physically interchangeable, but the software is different. Okay, so if your car has Gen 4, you need to fit a Gen 4. Okay, so Generation 4 Haldex is better because it has an accumulator. That's what, not that thing there. That's the pump somewhere here. That thing is an accumulator, okay, and the Gen 3 only has the pump and the filter. That's the pump, there's the filter. It doesn't have this sort of reservoir of high pressure sort of Haldex fluid. This one's much more reactive, okay. It can respond quicker. This one, the wheels have to slip quite a bit before it actually sort of does anything, okay. But the idea of this is it's an active coupling. That's the output, that's the input from the prop shaft, and inside here are a load of kind of plates, okay, so there's like a alternating, I think it's stainless steel, it's definitely steel, I think stainless, and these what they call sintered clutch plate things. I have no idea what they're made of, some sort of glass fibre substance, okay, but the sintered ones are sort of sandwiched between the steel ones. The steel ones are connected to the probably the input. I think, I don't know which way around it is, but one of these is connected to the input, one's connected to the output, and then it pumps fluid in. Okay, so there is a pump, and I bought all these new bits here. So we've got a new filter here, new seals, new bearings, O-rings, all sorts of things, and there's a genuine pump. That was expensive, very expensive. Okay, so I got all these parts from it's Haldex Repairs Co UK. Okay, so I spent about 400 and something pounds in the end. I think the pump itself was about 200 quid, but it is a genuine Borg Warner pump. Okay, so there are a lot of pumps on eBay and Amazon that are cheap Chinese ones, and they don't work as well. Okay, so best to avoid those. Always use genuine. Okay, so that's work in progress at the moment. I'm meant to be doing that this weekend and getting it all ready, strip down the old Haldexes, recondition them, get it bolted on, get it ready to put on the car. But the other day I heard a bit of a grinding noise from the back of my car, and I realised that even though the brake pads I knew were low, there's a rear pad, and it's got about 4mm of life there, so I thought, I'll do my pads soon. When I pulled off the wheel just to have a closer look, I realised that the inner pad was down to the rivets. Okay, and that's not good. Okay, because that's just going to wreck the disc, which it had actually done. It has ruined the disc as well, and the caliper pistons the seal had gone. Okay, so the boot thing that goes on the caliper pistons had split, so the pistons had gone rusty. So I thought, right, I need new pads. I had some pads, these ones, these Brembos that I was going to fit, and I went to fit them. They're the wrong size. They're different. Okay, so these ones are for the electronic handbrake model, the later model. These are the manual handbrake, and they're different. So just that's one to be careful of. Okay, because the Euro Car Parts website, I put in my registration, and it said these. I bought these a couple of years ago, thinking, I'll fit them one day, and it's too late to take them back now. And they're the wrong one. So I've given some feedback to Euro Car Parts. I've said, sort your website out, because it's selling. Basically, it's making me buy the wrong ones. Okay, and they're not compatible. So I've bought these Pagid ones instead. So here is a new rear. Okay, that's the correct size. That's what a new one looks like. And I've also bought some front pads, because the front pads also need doing. Okay, so they've got this kind of clippy thing on the back, and you look at the size difference, absolutely huge compared to the rears. But the fronts do most of the work, you see, so that's why they're much bigger. And because the rear discs were scored up by the rivet grinding down here, I've decided to buy new discs. And the front discs were quite worn because they've been on the car about 10 years. So I bought new front discs. So what started off as a sort of a free job turned into about £800 worth. And that's what I'm going to be doing this weekend. And this is why I probably won't be at Gaydon tomorrow. So I need to fit new discs and pads all round. The caliper on the back, the piston, is rusty and is going to leak if I'm not careful. So I've bought caliper repair kit. But then I thought, do you know what? I've got some orange paint here. I might paint my calipers. Now, because it takes a while for the paint to dry, I thought, why not just buy new calipers? Okay, so they're expensive, but the old calipers are looking a bit tired there. The front ones are quite rusty. The rear ones are probably damaged where the rusty piston's been pushed in and out. And yeah, I just decided to spend the money really and get new calipers. So these discs, these are the rear discs, and you'll notice these are vented. Okay, so what I did a few years ago was I fitted the discs that the 3.2 litre petrol 6-cylinder model uses. Okay, so that is vented on the back with wider calipers. Okay, so you can't just take your solid discs off and fit vented. You have to have the special calipers. Okay, so they're the 3.2 litre calipers, which have a bigger gap. Okay, bigger. You can put a bigger disc in them. Okay, so I will put up the part numbers of those at the bottom of the screen. Bought those from Maltings 4x4. Good price actually, normally about £100 each. I got them for about 40 something. Okay, and then these are front calipers. So on the front I also have uprated discs. Okay, so the front is vented as standard on the diesel, but I fitted, see if I can show you actually. Yeah, you can't really see it in there, but it's yeah, they're pretty scored up and worn, these discs. But what you can do on the front, on the diesel, is to fit the caliper carriers from the 3.2, which are slightly, they put the caliper and the pads slightly further out, and then you can fit the 316mm discs instead of the standard discs, which I think are 302. So your bigger discs, and then the caliper is the same and the pads are the same, but because it sits slightly further out, it's all about sort of the physics of it and the sort of leverage and things like that. If you put the pad further out, then you just get more braking force, okay, because it's further from the centre line. Okay, so trust me, it works. All right, so what I'll do is I'll do a big video series on all of that. Okay, so what I will do is swap the discs and then change the calipers, change the pads. I'm also going to change the hoses. Okay, so I'm going to put braided hoses on, bleed the brake system through. So that will be probably about a 3-part video. Okay, so I'll probably do front end in one video, back end in another, and then hoses and bleeding that in the third video. Right, that is brake overhaul coming up soon. Webasto heater still in here, never got it working. Fitted the fuel tank here. I've got the hoses in there, and I did connect them up, and water actually went through the Webasto, and then it started leaking because I'd not used the right size hose. Okay, so I was losing coolant, so I had to disconnect that. The weather then warmed up, and I just haven't gone back to it. I'm too busy doing all this and brakes and everything else. I need to get that done ready for the autumn, so at the end of the summer it's back onto the Webasto. I've done about 5 or 6 videos on the Webasto now, and it's almost at the point where I can actually run it up. We've got the exhaust connected, I've got the fuel there, fuel tanks all connected up, I've got the Webasto sort of mounted with the cooling system. Okay, so I've got the right hoses now to connect that in, and I just need to build the electronic control module and then put a second battery in the boot to sort of power that up. Okay, and that'll be it. It'll spring to life and it will be able to warm the car up. Don't need it at this time of the year because it's quite hot and sunny at the moment. Okay, so that is the Webasto, still on the list after many years. What else have I been up to? Let's have a little look. Tyre pressure monitor. So this thing here, I did a video fitting that a few months back, and it kind of worked. It took a bit of messing around to get it set up, and what I found was, even though the sensors, once I'd messed around changing the batteries and swapping them about on the car, got the sensors to read with the correct wheels and the correct position on the display, but when I opened the door, the display's meant to come on. It's solar powered. There's a little solar panel thing here, but it just wasn't coming on with the vibration. Basically, it detects the vibration when you open the door, and then the thing comes on and stays on while you drive. But what was happening is that I was having to press a button to make it come on, and then it would just go on for a few minutes and then go off. So I actually wrote to the company that sold it on Amazon, it was a company in China, and after about 2 months they responded saying that it was faulty and they were going to send a replacement. Okay, so the replacement arrived. I put that in the window, put the new sensors on because the old ones obviously paired to the old unit, threw the old unit away, and it is working perfectly. It's working really well. I didn't have to mess around with configuring anything or setting up sort of which sensors on which wheel. It really did just plug and play, which is how it's meant to be. So I think the old unit was faulty. That's why I was having so many issues getting it working. It made for an interesting video, but it was a little bit frustrating that the thing just wasn't working right. There was something wrong with it, so they very kindly replaced that free of charge, which is good. So what else? Code reader. Okay, so this thing here, I bought one of these. Okay, let me just open this up. This is a ODBC code reader. It's a bit like the what's known as the ELM 327. Okay, so the ELM 327, as I call it, is a well-known ODBC data. It's a code reader, but it sends data to the Talk app, I think it is, on the phone, so you can display gauges and all that kind of stuff as you drive along. But the problem is the ELM 327 only works with Android. It doesn't work with iPhones. So this is the later model, all right? This is the newer version, the later model, and it works with iPhones. Okay, so it's the app that you need is called Car Scanner. And it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I've tried Bluetooth code readers before. I tried the Autel one and I had nothing but trouble with it. Just wouldn't pair up, didn't work. With this one, plugged it in, ran up the app, it paired up, and in no time at all I was displaying gauges of manifold absolute pressure and air intake temperature, water temperature. The amount of data available is unbelievable. You can display gauges of all sorts of things. What I found though is it's great having all these little gauges on your phone, in the phone cradle on the dashboard, but it's very distracting. So when you're driving along, I kind of almost hit the curb a couple of times because I was kind of looking at the boost gauge going up and down and thinking, oh wow, that's good, look, we've got sort of fuel pressure and everything. But it's very easy to sort of accidentally drive along looking at the gauges and not at the road ahead. Okay, so just if you do get one of those, be a little bit careful, okay, because it's quite distracting. So I was going to get an iPad and sort of display it all on the dash, so I could have all these customizable gauges and that. But now that I've found out how distracting it is when you drive, I think I will stick to my original plan of doing a triple gauge pod, okay, so with proper old style gauges, not digital gauges, okay. So this is nice to have if you're fault finding and you want to look into an issue. Maybe you've got a hose leaking, intercooler hose leak or something like that, and you want to look at the boost or the manifold absolute pressure or the mass airflow sensor readings. You can look at those things and help diagnose it, but I wouldn't recommend actually having it permanently wired in. I was finding that with this plugged in, my knee kept hitting it, okay, nearly sort of broke it out of the socket a couple of times. So yeah, it's not something to just leave connected all the time, and also it might even drain the battery. I don't know how much power it uses when it's plugged in and the engine's off. Okay, so yeah, just it's not really something for a permanent install. Great as fault finding though. Other tiny little things that I bought on Amazon. One of these oil film brush things. I don't know what it is. I sort of saw the video. Okay, so we've all seen this video on Facebook and Instagram and whatever, and it's some sort of brush that apparently is really good at cleaning your windows, and it will remove all sorts of kind of oily stains and things and whatever. I don't know. I saw the video and I fell for it, and I thought, oh, I've got to have one of those. So I bought one. It was about £8, I think. I think it was Amazon, might have been eBay. Okay, so I got one of those, and I haven't used it yet. I'll give it a go. I'll do a quick video on that. What else? Projects coming up. Okay, so I've talked about the Haldex, I've talked about brakes and code readers and painted calipers and all that kind of thing. I've bought a thermostat housing here purely because that had the plug and the wire, a plug and a bit of wire on the the temperature sensor. Okay, so that's that green thing is a temperature sensor, and the reason I wanted that is I had a couple of issues earlier in the spring when the car was about 2 degrees outside, so it wasn't cold enough for the glow plugs to come on. but the car still struggled to start. A new battery, the starter motor and everything's all good. You know, it's plenty of juice and it was cranking over nice and powerfully, but it would sort of catch and then die, and eventually after about 7 or 8 attempts it fired up and kept running. And I've heard that what you can do is to put a resistor in series with the temperature sensor, so it fools the car into thinking that it's, say, 5 degrees colder than it is, and that then puts the glow plugs on, and then the car starts really easily. Even with a Webasto, people still need to do that, because the Webasto warms the water, it warms the heater and then inside the car, but the engine block, there's so much mass there that it can take a while for a Webasto to actually warm the engine. So you still need the glow plugs in really severe weather. So I'm thinking, if I can have a little switch that's sort of like, you know, take 5 degrees off the temperature sort of thing, then if it's +2, the engine will think it's -3, it'll put the glow plugs on and it will start. It's an interesting idea, so I thought, right, I'll get a sensor, get a bit of wire and the plug. Finding the plug was almost impossible, so I thought I'll buy a second-hand thermostat housing from someone on eBay who's literally just cut the hoses and the wire, so then I get the sensor and the plug and a bit of wire. Okay, and I can actually connect up and make something to put in series with the sensor. My slam panel here, I need to do something about this. Every single one is cracked here. This one's got a chunk out of it, so I'm thinking of doing some kind of quick release bonnet pins, do away with these bolts and actually have some sort of bonnet pins where you can just pull a pin out and then the whole front end, kind of like a quick release front end. Don't know, I need to do something there, because it's just going to end up just falling apart if I don't do something. I need to have a think about that. Watch this space. Drop links I still need to do. I still need to do lower arms. I've also bought a full set at vast expense. This was like 380 quid for a full set of poly bushes. Okay, so these are all of the suspension bushes for the arms and the track rods, you know, trailing arms and sort of transverse arms and all that kind of thing. So we've got front and rear, there's a full set in there. Okay, so I'm going to either fit new arms and put the uprated bushes in, or I will just use the old arms, which are in not too bad a condition actually, hook out the old perished bushes and fit the uprated ones. Apparently you have to be a bit careful with lift kit, okay, because the poly ones are stiffer and it doesn't like the bush being sort of bent by the arm being lower from a lift kit. So there's things to think about there, but I do want to stiffen things up a bit with the poly bush. I like what I did with the engine mount, engine stabilizer bar. That works really well, feels really good, so I'll just kind of keep going and do the rest of the car. So the drop links that I'm going to be fitting, when I do all that, I'll put in some adjustable race grade drop links. Okay, LED bulbs I've mentioned, I need to finish that off. I'm going to also try and do an EGR delete. Okay, so down the back there is the EGR, exhaust gas recirculation. I'm going to wait till I have the MOT, and then straight after the MOT I'm going to rip that out. I'm going to change the rocker cover as well, take out the PCV diaphragm. I always wonder what that diaphragm was for, and somebody pointed out that it is to prevent diesel runaway, because if there's a diesel runaway running on the oil mist that comes out, then the engine will be drawing a high vacuum and the PCV blocks and kind of prevents that. Okay, but in colder climates they don't fit the diaphragm. There's actually a kit you can get from Land Rover to remove the diaphragm, and the hose sort of comes out the top. I've seen some people do that. I think if you've got a catch can fitted, then any oil mist gets removed anyway. So I don't think that diesel runaways is less likely with a catch can. Okay, so if you've got a catch can, you're probably safe to remove the diaphragm. I'll do a video on that, and we'll have a look at that, as well as messing with all of that and replacing the rocker cover and this hose here, which I've already separated the clip there, which I need to deal with. I'm going to put a longer aluminium pipe there, take blue silicone hose right down to the turbo. Okay, so that's been on the list for quite a while, and that's pretty much it really. I've talked about the Haldex, I've talked about the brakes, I've talked about all the other things I've got on the list. Keep the positive feedback coming. When people give me positive feedback on my videos, it really helps. It's so nice to read that, and it really kind of motivates me to get on and do more videos. Okay, I haven't had to block anybody for quite a while. You've all been very well behaved. There are always a few people who have got nothing better to do than disagree, and I know that the way I do things isn't the way that everybody does things. This is me filming what I do. It's how I did it, not how to. Okay, so I'm just recording what I do on my car and putting it up. If you want to do things a different way, that's fine. There's often several ways to do things. So keep those feedback coming in, keep it positive, and thank you very much for all the likes and subscribers and the great positive feedback that I receive and read. That's really, really nice to get. One thing that somebody did comment on the other day was they were asking for torque wrench settings. I do try to put those up. I try to put up all sorts of text at the bottom of the screen, torque wrench settings and Celsius to Fahrenheit and all that kind of thing, part numbers and all that. I will try to do that, but sometimes I forget, sometimes I miss it, sometimes I don't have the Haynes manual handy with the torque settings. I'll try to put it in the video description. So somebody the other day was like, oh, can you give me the clip sizes for the hoses? And I said, it's in the video description. And they went, oh, okay, well, save me watching through. At what point does this description text arrive on the screen? And I said, no, it's not like a subtitle, it's a description. Every video on YouTube has text. There's a description that goes with it. Okay, so if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about there, have a look at any video on YouTube and click the link for description. And in there, I will usually put all the part numbers and all the sizes and the bolt torques and sizes and everything like that. I'll try and put all that in there, because what happens is when someone asks me something, if it isn't in the description, I'll go and find it and then I'll put it in there for everybody else. Okay, so keep an eye on that. I often get asked questions that have been answered in the description. People just don't go and read it. Okay, that is it. Vlog 6 done. I know that's gone on a bit longer than I thought it would, but I had a lot of things to talk about here. There's a lot of exciting videos coming up. Keep those likes going. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm at 8,000 subscribers now. When I get to 10,000 subscribers, I'm going to try and fit this to my car. It is a supercharger from a Mercedes. I think that would make a very interesting project, a feasibility exercise. But I like the sound of superchargers. So here's a little clip showing what it could be like. Thank you very much for viewing. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.